Hello, I'm Chad Kassem from Acoustic Sounds, Analog Productions, and Quality Record. And today we have Dave Mason and Chris Epting. And today we're going to talk to Dave and Chris about Dave's new book, Only You Know and I Know, that Chris Epting was
There
the
it is, right
co-author, him and
there.
Dave. Nice, nice. Got some hair going, huh?
Yeah, that was. I don't know who that guy is on the front there. With the,
So yeah, we're going to talk to Dave and Chris about the book they both co-authored, Only You Know and I Know, and then we're going to talk about Dave's new album, A Shade of Blues, that we pressed here at Quality Record Pressings, and also we cut the lacquers. Matthew Luthans cut the lacquers here at the Mastering Lab, and
that's the only place to get your album done.
hey man, I love hearing that. Love hearing that for sure. So so Dave and Chris are in Hawaii, and I was just telling them that it was 10 below zero here in Kansas yesterday. So th- they're rolling in 80 degrees. So
We
so
feel bad.
how y'all doing?
We're good.
Great.
All right.
We're
Well,
bearing up under the stress of it all.
nice, nice. One day I'll make it to Hawaii. I'm sure it's
Yeah, come
beautiful.
on over.
Hey,
Now would be probably a good time. Get
yeah, there
away
you
from
go.
that cold weather.
So when did Chris, when did you and David meet, and how did this come about, the book? Like, what spurred it on, or
It was very serendipitous. I've written a number of books with some great artists, including John Oates and Phil Collin from Def Leppard. And in terms of Dave, I wrote a book with the Doobie Brothers, Pat Simmons and Tom Johnston. And Pat Simmons lives over here on Maui. The Simmons and the Masons are friends. And one night I got a call from Pat Simmons' wife, and he said, "We had dinner last night with Dave Mason and his wife, and they were thinking of maybe at some point getting Dave's book together. Would you maybe be interested in talking to them?" I've always been a huge Dave Mason fan. And so I said, absolutely. And then one thing led to another. Dave was playing in Riverside, California, I think at the beautiful Fox Theater. And I went back there and we met and had a little chat. And I could tell that writing a book was maybe not the first thing on Dave's list. It's he was into the music and touring and all that, but he goes, we'll give it a try, and you're going to have to do a lot of research and a lot of homework. And I said, that's what I do. And we had a few phone calls, and then Dave called one day and he goes, you know what? He goes, for us to really do this, you need to get your ass over here. I've booked a plane flight, and within days I was here where we're sitting right now. And that was the process. And I gave Dave a lot of credit because writing a book is hard. To go back over time and unpack things that aren't always perfect and pretty is a lot of work emotionally. And once Dave got into it, I've written a lot of these books. I'm as proud of this one as I am any of them because it represents to me seriously one of the great untold stories in rock and roll. Dave's story, because of all the things he's done, all the people he's worked with, as we're going to get into, resulted in a book that is really interesting, very personal, and reveals things about music that I think will blow people away. Whether we're talking Dave's solo career, Traffic, the Rolling Stones, Beatles, Bob Dylan, whomever, it's all included in this book.
man, it sounds great. So how long does something like that take? Like, how long ago did y'all start?
Oh
And
God, it's been about 4 years.
Well, COVID, what was weird is that when
Because COVID was.
COVID hit, and that slowed everything down. All of a sudden, publishing stopped. They couldn't get paper and ink, literally, so books weren't being made. So, but the good part of it was it gave us time to really unpack and explore some things that maybe we wouldn't have done. And I think it resulted in a more personal book. I mean, the photos alone in it, they're got permission from Paul McCartney to use some incredible shots that Linda McCartney took of Dave with, Jimi Hendrix and others. So it really is. It's got a scrapbook feel. We weave in lots of other voices from Dave's life, from Graham Nash to Mick Fleetwood and lots of other people to kind of add their perspectives on Dave's life. So it's an incredible cast of characters led by this guy, especially because it's his book.
well, yeah, I mean, sometimes taking longer to it gives you better time to get all the details and remember something you might have forgotten
Yeah, well, we that kind of. I mean, originally we had a publisher with with BMG who decided uh, about 6 months before they were supposed to put it out that they were going to be no longer in the publishing business.
And this is a big publisher. This was no small thing. This was a big deal.
Yeah,
So we had to scramble.
they were no longer in the publishing business. So then I had a decision to make as to whether we were going to go hunt for a new publisher or whether I was just going to self-publish this. And so I elected to self-publish it. And actually, given the time, that there were things that we added during that period of time that I'd forgotten about or didn't think were relevant. So, it worked out.
It
Yeah,
worked out.
everything everything's just so difficult, man. Just when you fix and release it, this place decides to go out of bit, quit being in that business. It's
But you know
nothing
what?
is easy. Nothing
But
good's
the,
easy.
but the good part of it was our editor. The book was done. We have a great editor. He stuck with it. We hired him, and so the final product feels like BMG did it. It's a great book. It feels good. It's good paper stock. I mean, it's a really nice product, and I mean, the pictures alone. There's a great color insert.
Oh,
Tons of
well, that's the back picture of me.
yes.
See
There
that
you
guy?
go. There you
Anyway,
go.
we hired this guy for the front, and then I did the picture for the back.
Well, it looks nice, and it looks like a pretty big book. So where do they get it?
Well, the website and on Amazon, but
Amazon.
Wherever books are sold.
it's pretty much out there where usually places where you can get them online, but the website davemasonmusic.com, because that way you can order there are signed copies.
That look just like
Yeah,
that.
either signed or with personal, or I can personalize it. So you
Uh,
can do that through the website.
And that's a really cool thing today. I mean,
And
honestly,
of course at the shows, which is the main thing.
but the fact that you can is order up, a signed copy, a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, absolute rock royalty and have that personalized. I mean, you think about growing up. I mean, I'm 63, Chad. I don't know how old you are, but if
hey,
you
you 1 year older.
if you had told me the 15-year-old version of me pressed up against the rail at a Dave Mason show, that almost 50 years later, not only would we write a book together, but you could order a signed copy that would be that accessible. It's a cool world we live in today, to be able to get things like this if you're a fan. So it's a great book for music fans, for Mason fans. Just, again, it's a cool gift. There's a lot going on in this book.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. I mean, I can't believe I'm friends with Dave now too, and he's such a
Aren't
down
we
to earth
lucky?
person.
Aren't we fortunate to?
Yeah, he's such a down to earth guy. I mean, well, and I'm friends with Graham Nash too, and we'll talk about him a little bit because I know they're friends. And I tell you what, man, uh, between the two of those guys, they'll arm wrestle on who's the nicest. You know what I mean, or most down to earth. And
Well, the thing is
they
with
both
turning
were
in,
there. They were there and got stories and remember them pretty well too.
well, here's the thing, and I think, and gave us a nice contribution for the book. The thing about Dave that I think we can talk about now is that there are very few artists people talk about like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? Of having connections to people. When you take Dave Mason's career, starting out in Traffic, I mean, first, hanging out with the Spencer Davis group and kind of getting into Winwood that way. But now you got the birth of Traffic, and right after that, you've got leaving Traffic, going back to Traffic, writing Feeling All Right, Delaney and Bonnie, Graham Parsons, Graham Nash. Dave begins to cultivate these relationships, Mama Cass, and all of a sudden you've got almost like this spider web of musical history of Dave winding up on a Rolling Stones session for Street Fighting Man. We'll talk about Dave's relationship with Hendrix. Again, I'm a big music fan. I know you are too. But as a historian, I'm hard pressed to find somebody that's had the amount of musical experiences with the greatest, most famous musicians on the planet in history, and factoring into really contributing to what they've done. It just there's nobody else that's had that life.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see the albums. It's like to go back and look at the albums that he happened to play on. Like it's like you had the chance to pick them now. You know what I mean? Like they're it's unbelievable. But so Dave, when did you come to America at first?
At first, when I was
I mean, like
about 14.
when you were 14?
Yeah, well, my sister moved here in the 50s.
San Diego, right?
She moved to San Diego.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, no kidding. So,
She left and moved to San Diego along with her friend back in the late 50s. But
oh, okay. I was
there was
thinking maybe.
there's about 18 years between me and her. She's passed away now.
But something happened when you came to visit your sister. You found an old ukulele, right?
Yeah, well, can't give away too many of the stories in the book.
But that started this relationship with you and stringed instruments, basically,
Well,
right?
kind of. It did.
So you
Otherwise,
okay?
I was into music anyway, you know.
So how old were you when you joined Traffic?
About 19.
So how long did your career? How long were you in Traffic?
Well, I was there for the first two. Well, basically, I was there for the first album, and I wrote half the first album, and then wrote their biggest hit, kind of fantasy song that I wrote. That was the first song I'd ever written, which went to number two in England. Um,
Wow.
and actually, it's very much a studio track, and sort of I was a big Alice in Wonderland fan, so it's very much that sort of idea. And actually, I'm just all after all these years, I'm putting together a children's book based around the song
Oh,
with the
really?
with the song attached to it. It's called A Hole in My Shoe. So I was there for that. Then for me, the success came so quick, and I was so young. And I'm basically a country boy, so it was all too much for me. So I left the band and goofed around during that period. Got to know Hendrix, um, and we did some work with him. Came back and forth to America. Um, and then I met up with the rest of Traffic in New York. They were there recording the record plant, trying to do a second album. And I went by the studio to say hi, and they were like, "Well, we've only got 5 songs for this new album." I said, "Well, I got 5 songs. One of them was Feeling All Right.
Wow.
Guys, what do you want? Should we get back together here and do this?" So and that's how the second album came about.
Oh,
And then after the second album, I don't want to give too much away about in the book, but after that, then things kind of fell apart with Traffic. And basically, I goofed around in England for a while, did some stuff, tried to start a band with Ginger Baker after Cream broke up called Salt, which really didn't go anywhere, and a bass player named Bobby Gass. And then I decided to just up and move in 1969, and I just moved here to America. And I knew Graham Parsons, who introduced me to the Delaney and Bonnie, and I basically got involved with playing guitar for them for about a year and a half. And during that period, I cut my first solo album, Alone Together, which at the time when it was it was one of the few albums that DJs would play all the way through, mostly because it was multicolored, and the excuse was they couldn't find the tracks, so they just put it on, let it play. Became one of the biggest albums, the Desert Island Picks.
Totally.
Yeah,
You
it's
as the vinyl guy, Chad, if you look back at that album, it wasn't, I mean, it was the colored vinyl, it was the elaborate fold out. I mean, it was the whole package was a real production in a way
yeah,
that
you
didn't
was
a lot.
colored colored vinyl before color was cool, man. Now every
Really,
album,
there it is.
back in the day when you
There it
mentioned colored vinyl,
Yeah, there you go.
you, there's only a few records that people would mention, and everybody always mentioned this one. And then the die cut, it's unbelievable. And it has a little thing so you can hang it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not only is it a great album, it's a great cover and a great color. And
It was shot by a very famous photographer, Barry Feinstein.
Barry Feinstein, yeah. That and Joshua Tree.
oh wow, I'm friends with Bruce Botnick and Al Schmidt.
Yeah,
Those are
well,
two.
Al passed away, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, Al. I mean, Bruce, of course, is all the Doors but Al really, he was great too,
Oh, well,
man.
yeah. I mean, he goes back to what, Nat King Cole sessions. I mean,
Yeah, he did. I think Mancini um, back at RCA like in '62, but pretty much I think when I was born. And he worked a lot with Doug Sachs. But so
Doug
no, yeah,
Saxon.
this is a killer album for sure. And then MCA reissued it like in the '90s,
Yeah.
and
This reissued, and then of course I redid, which you did. We did Alone Together again. I re-recorded the whole album.
Who does that? That's another kind of thing with Dave that really from an artistic standpoint, I remember sitting right here where we are right now. And Dave was telling me this idea a few years ago, and he goes, you know what? I don't think I sang it as good back then as I did today. And so he redoes the entire thing and gives it this whole new sensibility, and it's a whole different take on the same classic. And I mean,
yeah,
I
no,
love
that's super,
that
super
record.
cool, man. Super cool. And then he's got, the new Dave. So and here's the vinyl. We pressed it at QRP. We had
Yeah.
to try to match.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
almost,
incredible.
it's like marble. It's like almost every color in the
Yeah.
so we were lucky enough to be able to press this one, and he has fancy cover again.
Wait, I have a question though for Dave. Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. Originally, wasn't the colored vinyl weren't you going for something different with
Well,
Alone
I
Together?
wanted it, I wanted it to look like a sunburst.
But something happened
But
to the
well, there was no there's no way to control that in the presses. You just
so it
pull
just went
it
crazy and you're
just
like, whatever.
yeah, and every single one of them is different. They all come out
Right.
different. They're not the same. Every presser, they're all different.
Right. And that's another kind of weird.
Uh,
That album has so many twists on it, and then the players.
they made originally in the original one there were 250,000
Oh, is that
pressed
right?
of the color, and then it went to black vinyl.
It's a great collector's item today. And who all is on that record? I mean, you got a lot of
Oh
interesting
God,
people.
Yeah, yeah. I'm looking.
Keltner, Jim Gordon,
Leon Russell.
Leon Russell,
Uh,
Carl Hadel.
Peter Coolidge,
I mean,
Carl Radle.
Yeah. Bonnie and Delaney.
Yeah, well, they were all the people that I was friends with and playing with.
Oh, Leon Russell was on it too, huh?
Yep, Leon's on a couple of tracks.
So you have like two of the best drummers,
Yep.
Leon Russell, Carl.
it's a seminal record. It still holds up. Of all of that era, it really I've spoken to so many musicians who put that on their top 10, no matter what. Alone Together is just one of those records you had to have and still holds up today.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's a desert island. It's a top 50. It's all those things, musically, sonically, collectible, the artwork, the pressing, and yeah, no, we still have some, and we're happy, man. We like to have things available to people, because a lot of times you run out. But yeah, then the new one, we pressed that one. That one's cool. And then he did this one was really cool. Futures Past. Got an autographed copy of that. And when Graham Nash was here, he saw this on the wall and he got real excited, and so then he wrote,
Yeah, he
we're
took
gonna frame this. Tell us about the cover, Dave.
uh it's a photograph that it's actually a photograph that Graham took of me when I was visiting him when he lived in Kauai years ago.
Yeah, he
And
said,
then he was doing this, and then he was doing this process with his photographs to
yeah,
make them like paintings. So that's what, that's Graham's handiwork there.
yeah. So it says, I took this Polaroid of Dave and pushed the emulsions around, and here it is. So we're gonna frame these two things. I just thought of something that I didn't think about before that I wanted to talk to you about
Okay.
is this album and your friendship with Mike Finnegan.
Oh, certified live.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, Mike was with me for a long time. He's with on like um I think three of those Columbia records. Yeah. Yeah, I had a great Mike Finnegan, Gerald Johnson, Rick Jager, and Jim Krieger, who wrote "We Just Disagree." They were a band. They were with me for a while.
But Finnegan
Finnegan was just,
special, right? You
yeah,
always talk about him.
yeah. Well, yeah, Mike was something else. Great singer, great fucking
yeah.
singer, great organ player.
Well, when he played with Etta James, she would let him do three or four numbers,
Sure.
Right.
and you know that you got to be good
They
for
wouldn't just do that,
right.
right?
And then you let him do a song, a whole
Oh yeah,
side,
going down slow. Oh
and
yeah.
going
Oh
down slow, which
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just singing that the other day.
You
Um,
know, Mike was one of I interviewed him for Dave's book, and it
oh,
was
really?
right before he passed. So I think it's one of his last real recollections, and it was tragic that we lost him. But he really gave he speaks about Dave in the book and tells some stories. It was a real privilege to be able to talk to him and get his perspective on that. Because that certified live album, at that point, you're one of the top touring acts anywhere. I mean, in 1976, I mean, and that's the era of the live album. I mean, that's Kiss Alive, it's Frampton Comes Alive, it's Certified Live. That was that moment where live albums all of a sudden, and Certified Live, I think, is just it features your version of Take It to the Limit, which people don't realize that you covered the Eagles tune and brought this whole other feel to it. And again, for those that haven't heard Certified Live, and I don't want to reveal, but there's a story in the book about how that record was mixed and where it was mixed and what you did, which is kind of a crazy tale unto
Yeah.
itself.
Ron Nevison did that. Was the engineer on that.
yeah, we're working on some Bad Company right now, so we're kind of familiar with him. But yeah, man. So yeah, I got to be friends with Mike Finnegan, and there for a while it looked like people between Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and Taj Mahal, um, and Etta James. It was whoever could get to him first, who he'd be playing with.
Yeah.
And we don't have a whole lot of musicians in Kansas, or famous musicians, but and he wasn't born in Kansas, but I think he went to KU and played basketball, and he lived
Right.
here for a long time. So we kind of claimed him, you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
And he's proud of this area, and I think he talked about it. And so I booked him to play on a record, and then also to play with Percy Sledge at a concert. And I'll just tell you a little quick story, and you'll get a kick out of it. So the bass player didn't show up, And of course, we didn't know before an hour before the show or something, um, and so I mean, we're in a small town. I mean, there's not like, you just can't, call, you know, a famous bass player like that. So anyway, we got one to come in, and him and Finnegan worked out the music. And then we went outside, and Finnegan he's about what, 6'10" or something?
Yes, he's about 6'3", 6'4".
Oh, really? Well, to me, he was looking about 6'10", but he had a cigar, a big old cigar, and he was looking down at me, and he goes, "Listen, man, it ain't going to be you up on the stage looking like an idiot. It's going to be me." I said, "Man," I said, "Mike, I'm sorry, dude. The bass player told me he was going to be there and everything, and I don't know what to say. I'm sorry." And that's when he said, "It's not going to be you." And man, I was intimidated. I was like, there was nothing else I could say. No, he goes, "I don't know that guy. I know you. I trusted you." And I couldn't argue with him, man. I mean,
That
it's
sounds like Mike.
but but you know what? I look back at it and laugh because it was it was an experience, and we were all but they pulled it off, man. They pulled it off good with Percy Sledge, and so yeah, we shout out to Mike because everybody around here loves him.
He was fantastic.
Yeah. So tell me, let's go through some of the records. I know it's probably all in the book, and I don't want you to tell the whole story, but like Jimi Hendrix Electric Ladyland, like any how did that come about, and what did you play, or what song did you play on? Any little.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I just met him when he first came to England at a club, after hours club in London. And he was just sitting by himself. So I just sat down, started talking with him, struck up a conversation. He was a big fan of Traffics. So, it was kind of easy. Um, and that's how that started. And then, like in that meantime, after I'd first left Traffic, after that first period, there were times when we'd just hang out, listen to records together, or would get up and jam with him. It's a couple of the clubs in London. And over the period of time, it just we were at somebody's house, um, and they had it was a little gathering, a get together, and she had a copy of John Wesley Harding, Bob Dylan's album, a pre-release copy. So it was like, you want to come over and check out the new album. So, and Jimmy and I happened to be together, and so went over the place and listened to the John Wesley Harding album, and I guess something tweaked his interest when on All Along the Watchtower. So a few days later, we were in the studio recording it, which, just so everybody knows, the track was not cut in Electric Ladyland. Okay. None of that track was cut there. Maybe mixed there, but people seem to think it was recorded there. It was recorded at Olympic in London. I should know because I was there for the whole damn session, and I'm playing on it, and I'm playing the acoustic guitar part. So, I did with him, and I sing on Crosstown Traffic. And then there was some other tracks that we did because I was at the time I'd been playing sitar, so we had fooled around with me doing some tracks where I played bass and sitar. I don't know what happened. In fact, I think some of them have gotten found, and I think they all think it's Brian Jones on there, but it's not. It's me. If there's a bass and sitar in there. So,
But wasn't Brian Jones
Brian was there.
hanging
Brian
out,
was
right?
there, but Brian was just out of his mind. Just he wasn't really doing anything. Um, and that's how that got cut. And that's, that was basically my whole thing with Jimmy. And then, like, as I said, I moved to the States. And so that relationship kind of fell by the wayside. And then obviously not long after I was in the States, he checked out. And that
You know
was,
what's interesting though? If you
which
look,
is so, which is, it was a shame because it was, he was, I think, talking to, I think he was trying to work on something where he and Miles Davis were going to do something together.
right.
You kidding me?
Uh,
No, it's true.
no. And then another little tidbit too is love the one you're with. Originally, that organ solo was a Jimi Hendrix solo, and Stills took it off and put the organ in there.
Really?
Yeah.
They had Jimmy playing there?
Yeah, he was originally it was a Jimmy went in there and put a solo in the middle of that tune. And then
Oh,
Stills
shoot.
replaced it with the organ.
That'd be cool to hear.
I know.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Chad. With Dave's story, it's interesting because he's with Hendrix in that instance, and the song that comes out of it becomes one of the most iconic Hendrix moments. It's not unlike when you're doing the Traffic record and the Stones are recording Beggar's Banquet. You wind up in a Rolling Stones session, and of all the tunes on Beggar's Banquet, I mean, arguably Sympathy for the Devil and Street Fighting Man are the two probably most iconic. In Street Fighting Man, there you are playing
Yeah.
some drums, playing that. What's the instrument called? The shantai.
Shanghai.
So these things, these sessions that Dave winds up, plenty of people were in sessions, but the ones Dave was in, they all seem to become like some of the most iconic moments in music.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, Dave's career. I mean, it really is amazing. So, well, talking about Becker's Banquet, is there any like this
Well,
tidbit about?
again they were at Olympic using, the same engineer, Kramer, and Jimmy Miller was producing them at the time, who was brought over by Chris Blackwell to actually produce Traffic originally.
Well,
So, and I knew Brian pretty well, and Graham Parsons at the time was there. I got to know, and he was hanging around the Stones. So it was just, we were just, a lot of times you drop by people's sessions and just hang out. It was a very small community. If one of the things you have to remember back then in the 60s, and London was going, it was a very unique time. It was a great time in fashion, in music, and all kinds of stuff. But the thing is, a lot of the reason things like this could happen there was because London was the only place that everybody went to. I mean, that was where you recorded. In America, you had where you had Philadelphia, you had Nashville, you had New Orleans, you had New York, you had San Francisco, you had LA. You could record in all those places. In England, there was just one place, and that was London. So everybody knew everybody.
but another,
So that's how all that happened. I was there, and they were cutting Beggar's Banquet, and um, I just, it's like, hey, Dave, come on, play this. The drums on that track are me, Brian, and Charlie. It's three different people make the drum track on that. I'm playing this big, huge Moroccan drum. And Brian's got a smaller one, and Charlie was playing. It was a snare drum and thing. It was in a briefcase, and it was all cut sitting on the floor with Brian, me, Charlie, and Keith. And Keith
Nice.
put the acoustic guitar onto
right.
a cassette tape recorder, then transferred that onto the tape machine for the compression you get on a cassette. Um, yeah.
You know,
So
it's
that's how that
but something I think
occurred.
was worth mentioning is that you can't overstate the impact that Traffic had, right? Because Traffic, everybody was into Traffic, and it's why Hendrix, the Beatles, when Traffic would perform, everybody had to be there. And even I think Jagger came to a Traffic session, saw what Jimmy Miller was doing with you guys, and kind of egged him over to the Stones. I mean, Traffic was influencing things in so many ways, and you're in the middle of this new band that was really musicians just couldn't get enough of. I mean,
Yeah, I guess.
well, trust me, no, what I just said is true. No matter what he says, I am exactly right on this one. It's not debatable.
But I mean, it's crazy. So just going back to the Hendrix thing, you were there when he first listened to All Along the Watchtower.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you're there when y'all both first hear it, and then you end up being on it with him.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
got to listen to discover it together and then work on it together. I mean, that's amazing. So then George Harrison, All Things Must Pass. Where
Well,
was that?
yeah, well, yeah, yeah. I mean, I knew McCartney via my girlfriend who was designing some stuff for him at the time. And eventually I got to know, I would go to Abbey Road a lot and a few times and hang out. I got to know George. And so basically the thing with All Things Must Pass is a little bit of a blur for me because everybody in the, everybody in the grandmother was really on that album. There was a lot of people. So now I was just there with a lot of people playing on. I don't even know what tracks I played on, be honest with you. Actually, I played acoustic guitar on I think two or three songs, but I don't remember exactly which ones they were.
Well, then another
Oh, I'm
story.
on all. So I'm on All Things Must Pass. Yes.
Hey, that's huge. So another story you told me was when you were in New Orleans and you played on I love the Wings, Venus and Mars album, and
Oh,
tell us
yeah.
a little bit.
I was doing a show at the Warehouse, which obviously is not, it's not there anymore. I
Oh,
don't
that
think.
was a great
Not
place.
learned
Yeah,
that. What a
no,
cool
it was
place.
great. I was doing a show there, and I guess they were McCartney was there with Wings doing it at the Alan Toussaint studio. And some of Wings had come over to the show, and I had a couple of days off after that event, and they were like, come by the studio, man, come hang out. So yeah, okay, I'll come, I'll drop by tomorrow. And they were working on Listen to What the Man Said. So
Wow.
McCartney's like, here's a guitar, play this lick with me.
Nice,
And
nice.
so my only contribution to that lick is I put the little harmony piece into it.
Hey,
But
man, you
Venus
were
and
there,
Mars,
baby. You were
Venus
there.
and Mars is a great album, but the figures, the song that Dave is on is the number one hit record. I love that album, but that's the song that he's
I
on. And
know he ends up being on the hits and the greatest albums of like the 25 top albums of all time. So, what about Mama Cass? I have the album and I've been seeing it around, and I right before the interview I can't put my hands on it, but
Well, that was part of me when I first moved here. And Graham Parsons took me up there to her house. Um, and then the reason that really got involved there was because there were two people, there was a couple there living there at her house that were really close friends of mine from England that I had no idea that they were there. So it was like, oh shit, people I know. So I end up going up there a lot. And that's basically how that album came together, I guess, because it was there so much. And we just sort of would hung out, and there are times we just sit around and sing stuff. And it sort of was like, maybe we should record something, Cass. So that's kind of how that album came about.
well, it's funny because I bought Doug Sack's Mastering Lab, and when I was buying it, the lawyer that was in charge was Leah Kunkel.
oh,
And do you know Leah?
Yeah,
sure.
sure.
Yeah. And so, I'm negotiating with her, and I'm learning of who she is and that. And then I realize she's Mama Cass's sister. And then I was like, she looks just like her. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm negotiating with Mama Cass right now. So it was kind of funny, but sounds like she's well known in the
Yeah.
community with her husband, me and Russ and her
Russ,
son.
yeah, Russ played drums for me for a little while.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
other thing when you mention this era, people don't realize that the birth of the Laurel Canyon sound is really kind of happening at this point. So you have Dave now, who's in the midst of this between Cass Elliot and you Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. You hung with those guys. So now he goes from England, Dave that is, and arrives in this scene in Southern California that also becomes very impactful. To this day, obviously, has left a very powerful mark. And you're in the midst of all that stuff too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's like you were in the middle of the best of what London was going on, and then the best of Laurel Canyon. I mean, when I was talking to Graham, I was like, and I guess it'd be the same for Dave. Like, you were at these house get-togethers where y'all are trying out y'all songs, just playing them to each other, right? Like
yeah, pretty much.
it's just unbelievable to think about being there, and not only just being there, you were one of them, y'all were, hey, you were all over the place. That's
Well,
crazy.
he was. There's people can look up. There's an incredible clip a couple of weeks after Woodstock. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young were playing up in Northern California at what's that?
Oh, excellent.
Esalen, this retreat. And during their set, they bring Dave out to do two songs,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like they understood here's this up and coming singer-songwriter that they actually gave part of their set to. So there was this kind of respect going on too. It wasn't all cutthroat competitive. They were making space for each other, and then a year later, Alone Together, you're working on. But we first hear, I think it's the first time we hear you did, I think Only You Know and I Know.
Right.
And
I forget what else it did.
uh World, I think it was.
World in Changes.
It was World and Change. So again, that culture at that time was really intriguing. And the other thing is that Delaney and Bonnie, I don't, there's a lot in the book about that whole ecosystem because when you talk about All Things Must Pass, well, that's all trickled down from when George Harrison is hanging out with Delaney and Bonnie and Clapton's hanging out, and that it was almost incestuous what was happening. But that band, gave so many other bands great players, Bobby Keys, Jim Price, and Delaney and Bonnie. And it results in things like Derek and the Dominoes in part. It results in All Things Must Pass. So, you found yourself amongst these sort of clusters of musicians that was all very influential.
Yeah. Well, I was with Derek and the Dominoes when they first started.
Yeah.
Oh,
Played
really?
Yeah,
Wow.
and played their first show with them and recorded with them. But things were, there was things going on. Unfortunately, it's not that it's not public knowledge. Eric's talked about it himself. Unfortunately, that's where, yeah, and it was Jim Gordon that got him hooked on heroin. And so it was starting to happen. So there was a lot of just sitting around doing nothing. And for me, it was like, guys, this is great, but I'm going the other way. So I left and came back to America. But as it turned out, they cut a great fucking album. So
Hey, I mean,
I missed that one.
yeah. So
Aren't
five
you
out,
on Layla? Isn't that you on Layla?
No,
yeah,
no.
5 out of 6 ain't bad. But that would have been right with the other ones. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Would have made total sense.
yeah.
Yeah. Like you were hitting, top albums. But so anyway,
I'm on, and then there's some earlier stuff before all that I'm on. I'm on three of the Spencer Davis records hits. Somebody Help Me, uh, Give Me Some Lovin',
I'm a
oh
man.
and
really?
and I'm a Man. Yeah,
Damn, damn.
yeah.
That's amazing. So anyway, so the way I met Dave and maybe you'll remember also Dave's played. We have a nice little theater in Salina, and the lady that runs it, Jane, is just so awesome. And we're in a small town of 50,000, and I mean, where I'm from in Louisiana, there's music all the time, everywhere. But in Kansas, we don't really have it. So we're so lucky to have this theater. And Dave's played here probably at least 4 times. Once with Steve Cropper, and so I got to meet Steve. I mean, I got to meet Dave after one of the shows, um, and I just Dave went out to sign autographs and mingle with the people, which was really nice. I mean, it wasn't he was down to earth right there with the people,
Sure.
and I said, hey Dave, I'm Chad Kassem, and he. A lot of times people are like, yeah, man, I'm busy. Oh, yeah, you make records. Yeah, good, right. Yeah. And he like, was he was listening to me, and so I said, hey, listen, if you'd like, I'd love to show you our facility and our pressing plant and our warehouse and our office. And he goes, okay, yeah, tomorrow let's do it. So he came and we showed him all around, and so I'm a salesman, I like talking, so I'm just telling them, well, we could do this, we could do that. This is what we do. This is, and finally he's like, he said, listen, man, I'm sold, dude. He said, I already seen everything I need to see, meaning I'm sold. He said, from now on, you're gonna make all my records from now on. He goes, you make CDs too? I'm like, hey man, I got to draw the line somewhere. And then we laughed. And then another thing that I have this conversation sometimes with musicians where they say, well, man, I'm into the groove. I'm way more, the groove of the song is way more important than the sound quality. And I'm really into the groove, And I said, well, yeah, Dave, I agree with you. I know what you're talking about. And a lot of musicians say the same thing. But I said, but what if I can get that good groove and capture it in the best sound quality possible? And he's like, yeah, hey, so it's like, all right, man. So that's kind of how we sealed our friendship right there. And we appreciate making your records, man. We appreciate working together.
Yeah, no, thank
Well,
you.
Chad, on that note, I mean, you've got a new record coming out. If I could just share one quick thing for a second.
Please.
Yesterday in this house, there were two kind of interesting experiences. One, we're watching a TV show last night, and during the end credits comes the Hendrix version of Watchtower. And he's sitting there thinking, all right, so here's the guy who played that. It's this timeless thing that to this day is still very current and very amazing. Yet yesterday afternoon, we were sitting outside and you put on the new record.
Yeah,
A shade of
yeah.
blues.
You wanted to hear it, so
And it just played. No one spoke. We just listened. Show this. And it struck me going to sleep last night thinking, here's Watchtower on TV, and that's always gonna, be impactful. But listening to the record yesterday was really an emotional experience because I kind of get your take on it.
you
If we
need
can,
it. You need
I may get verklempt in a minute. But you've worked with enough artists that when they get into sort of later years, there are certain ones that can still deliver. Not all of them do. Some are happy to just kind of fall back and become kind of a human jukebox. But the ones that want to continue to push and explore, that's a whole different headspace. That's exciting. That's true art. Those are true artists in search of something. So now you've got this new blues record. I'm listening yesterday thinking this is sort of it's your life set to blues. I mean, you're hearing things and you've got a piece on there where you hear Mike Finnegan again, right? And
yeah.
and you hear Joe Bonamassa and you hear all these great players, old and young, and yet it feels very personal. It feels it's very intense. To me, it's almost an extension of the book in that there's great storytelling. The playing is still, I mean, for those of you like me that are fans of Dave Mason, just the guitar player, you're playing on this record is incredible. I don't know, Joe, did Bonamassa push you a little bit? Did you push each other? Does playing with someone like that bring something out new in you, or are you just kind of good to
Well,
go?
the stuff with Joe was kind of I mean, I pretty much already had the tracks done. So Joe kind of, I put him in like later and divvied up I mean, there's a great, have a really cool rearrangement blues version of Low Spark of High Heel Boys on there. That Joe and I trade verses and trade guitar solos.
It's incredible.
So it's pretty cool.
Oh, there it is, the vinyl.
There's the
Can
vinyl.
you show us the actual blue vinyl? Is that in there?
No,
Oh,
I
uh-oh.
just grabbed the
Uh-oh.
sleeve. I
Uh-oh.
know. So yeah, so when is this going to come out? It's coming out
Comes
on
out
March.
March 22nd is the official release date for it.
All right, well, you'll be able to get this. Matt Luthen's mastered it, and QRP pressed it. It'll be on Acoustic Sounds website. It's a beautiful blue vinyl. It'll also be on Dave Mason Music.
DaveMasonMusic.com, where again, you can, at least for me, you'll be able to get personally signed copies of it.
Will you
And-
have it on the road
And
too?
again, on the road, on tour. So
And I'll bootleg it. No, but so yeah, this record will be again ready release March 22nd. And
Yeah.
then Dave has his new book out that Chris Epting has helped
Have the
him
book
put
right
on.
Oh,
there.
yeah. Only you know and I know.
There's the book.
Only you know and I know, and either you can get it on Amazon or get it on Dave's website
Or
and
on tour.
on tour. Yeah.
Tour date
Is
is
there?
at the end of March.
Do you have another tour planned?
Yeah, we'll be out on and off all year. We're out again on the March 20th is the first beginning of the 2-week run, starts in Augusta, goes down to Florida.
If you go to the website, all the rest of
But
it.
all the dates are on DaveMasonMusic.com, obviously on the tour schedule.
Well, that's cool. I think it's exciting, man. You got a new book, you got a new album. It's a lot to talk about. It's exciting times. You're still looking good and sounding good. And
Well, thank you, Chad.
and we appreciate how down to earth you are, man. It really, I don't know, it just feels really good to be able to talk to a legend and you're instant friends. It's not like you feel intimidated or you just really nice.
The day is young.
Well, pants go on one leg at a time, Chad, just like
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it really, it's really refreshing and nice when somebody that as famous as you is so down to earth. But
Well, thank you.
listen, anything you need, man, when it comes to making records or selling records, man, you just give me a call, and I know comes to books, you can call Chris, man. You got two friends.
Thanks, Chad. Thanks for everything. Thanks for
I
your time.
appreciate it. Let's stay in touch, dude. Thank you.
Will do.
Keep up the
Later.
good work, Chad. Bye.
Bye-bye, Chris. Bye, Dave. Thanks.
Bye.
Please like and subscribe for more audiophile content.